Welcome to Literary Libations with Librarians. This time we are celebrating fall. Fall is officially here, and these books make us want to curl up with a hot drink and a cozy blanket and settle right into the cooler weather and fall. As we share our titles, if there are any that you would like to get your hands on, there are several ways to do so. The quickest is probably just to give a call to your local branch of the Monroe County Library System and speak to the staff there, and they'll be more than happy to assist you. If you'd like to request physical versions yourself using our online catalog, that web address is on your screen now. Some of the titles we talk about will be available on one of our digital platforms, and we have two different ones. The first is Overdrive, and you may hear Overdrive referred to as Libby. Libby is the app for Overdrive, and Overdrive offers downloadable ebooks and audiobooks and also magazines. The other digital platform is Hoopla, and Hoopla offers downloadable ebooks, audiobooks, and also movies, music, and graphic novels. And the great thing about Hoopla, when you get on there, if you see items that have a little lightning bolt next to the title or the cover of the item, those items there's never a wait for. So you can download that immediately. I am Jennifer Graneski, and I am the community librarian at the Dundee Branch Library. And fall is my favorite season. I am not a warm weather person, so I look forward to the temperatures dropping into the 50s and 60s every year. I loved it this year, even though maybe it came with a lot of rain. Could have done without that, but looking forward to today. Today is supposed to be 70 and sunny, and I'm ready for the crisp air. And our intro question for this week is, what makes you feel like fall is really here every year? And I thought about that, and I do love getting out my fall decorations, but I think every year I know fall is really here when I put on pants. When it's time to switch from wearing capris or shorts or whatever else, and I'm like, nope, gotta get out the box of jeans, gotta get out the box of pants. And it's also the time of year when I look at my child and go, I bet you have no pants that fit you, because we don't do back to school shopping in August, because usually all of September is still too hot because his school is not air conditioned. So usually all of September is too hot to be wearing pants. So we wait the extra month just in case he grows. Well, this year I waited a little too long, and he went to school this week with the high of 57 in shorts. But he's, almost 13, so he was fine with it. It didn't seem to faze him at all. And we'll be going pants shopping here shortly. So pants and fall. Yep. Also with us this week is Joyce Tapke, who is a processor at our DOMI administration building. And what makes you feel that fall is here each year?
Well, for me, usually fall is here when I start seeing the pumpkins showing up all around the area. We love our pumpkin carving. We usually do that right before Halloween. Growing up in New Boston, for me, growing up, fall was ushered in with the Apple Fest, which was always a lot of fun. And lately, we just mentioned earlier the Renaissance Festival, and that's almost like the end of summer, heralding in fall. You never quite know what the temperature is going to be like when you go to the Renaissance Festival. We've been there in cold, we've been there in heat. We were just there last weekend, and so that's kind of our farewell to summer, hello to fall for our family.
Nice. Thank you, Joyce. I actually have yet to make it to the Renaissance Festival. I feel like I would love it, and I feel like my son would love it, but I have not made it there yet. So that's on my to-do list someday. Also with us this week is Sarah Valerius, who subs throughout the entire Monroe County Library System and has been kept very busy for the last several months doing so. And what makes you feel like fall is here each year, Sarah?
Well, every year we go on a vacation to Orange Beach, Alabama. If you guys have not been, you got to go. The beaches are better than Florida, soft, white. So when we come home, I always feel like God just turned the heat off, because it's when you wake up, it's 80 there. And when you come home to Michigan, it's always like 60 in the morning. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for this. So I cringe putting on pants. I do love fall. Most of all is the pumpkin. I love everything pumpkin. And I am that person that's like, will you try this? Yep. Last year was moon pies and pumpkin flavor. Those were very good, right? Like sometimes they get a little crazy, but will I try it? Yep. But I don't know if I'll eat it again. The pumpkin Oreos were not they were not good.
Did you try the pumpkin spice Pringles?
No,
It's been
I
a
didn't
few
see
years.
those.
There were pumpkin spice Pringles, and yes, indeed, I am also a pumpkin fan, and I tried them. And what they tasted like to me was like really thin pie crust.
Ooh.
Like you're eating a really thin piece of pie crust. It was strange. I don't know if I'd eat them again, but yeah, I'll try all the pumpkin stuff too.
Yeah, I'm so excited when the pumpkin coffee comes out. So excited.
Same.
All right. Thank you, Sarah, unless you had more.
No, I'm good.
Okay. I thought, I saw your face and I was like, oh no, I cut her off too soon.
Well, no, I was just going to say, I've never been to the Renaissance either, but I've read quite a few books that I was like, I probably should have talked about those on here because they give like a behind the scenes, how the characters travel, how they load up, how they make and I'm like, oh, that would have been a good book to talk about today. And I'm like, what was that title again? I'm going to have to go back and look because it's a series, but it was really good about a girl who always wanted to do it, but she took care of her mom. And yeah, I'm going to have to look up that title because I learned a lot about the Renaissance with that book.
Right. All right. And finally with us this week is Jen McCarty, a reference librarian at our Ellis branch. And what makes you feel like it's fall every year?
I had an answer for this. And then as we're going through it, I'm like, yes, that too. Oh yeah, I had to buy pants this week with my child because he pulled them on and they were like so tight. And I was like, are you okay? And he's like, oh, they're fine.
All right.
But for me, and I am a pumpkin, all the things girl. Like I joke about it. I'm like, I don't care how basic this makes me. I like it and I'm happy. So, but for me, my birthday is September 16th. So fall is always with my birthday. I didn't do it this year, but usually I like to buy myself a new sweater or a new something, and I'm gonna wear it on my birthday. I don't care if it's still hot. So the beginning of fall is always sort of intrinsically tied to my birthday for me. And like when I know it's getting close to birthday time, it's also getting close to fall time and bonfires and cozy, and it just makes me really happy. I love fall.
Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and get started sharing our books that make us feel like we're just ready to curl up in a big cozy blanket and just read all day. And let's have Sarah get us started.
All right. I you know me, if you've watched before, I'm an avid reader, usually 2 to 3 books a week, can't decide on one. Like Jennifer said, I have been so busy working that I have not been able to read, but I have read 2 lately that I could not put down. And the first one was The Last Thing He Told Me. So I had not heard about this one in our system and is hugely popular on the hold list. I had a friend who called me in New Jersey, was like, add this to your title. And I'm like, I've never heard of it. But let me tell you, this is a book you can't put down. This is a thriller book. So it's husband and wife. He has a daughter from a previous marriage that mother had passed away. He's a teacher. She is an artist. Their daughter, her stepdaughter is 16. So she gets a knock on the door. It's a 12-year-old handing her a note. And she's like, wait, who are you and why are you at my door? She was like, I don't know. This man running down the hallway told me to hand you a note. So I said, well, I could do it, but after practice, like that little 12-year-old voice. So she was like, I am so confused. Who are you? So the note says, only thing it says is protect her. And she's like, what? What is this about? So the daughter comes home and she says, have you seen Dad? Because he didn't pick me up from practice. I have no idea. She's like, but I have a duffel bag with $60,000 in it. And she's like, wait, what? She says, yeah, somehow it's in my backpack. She was like, $60,000. She said, I counted it. It's $10,000 in each bundle and there's 6 of them. And I'm like, holy moly. Yeah, you got to read this book. I'm not going to tell you the end, but Dad is on the run and you have to figure out why and who he's running from. And it was a page turner where you curl up and you don't want to turn it away. It doesn't have any like blood or guts or anything like that in it, but it is very suspenseful. I thought it was excellent. I was like, so when I was at Doors talking about it, they're like, oh yeah, I read that book. That was really good. I couldn't put it down. I was like, why have I not heard like when it first came out? And then my other book, you know, I love romance. So a good romance that you can't put down. My other one is a rom-com. And this one was really funny. It's called Accidentally Engaged. And again, I learned a lot. So the writer is Muslim, so it's a Muslim background. And I didn't realize like they eat certain foods on like certain days, like the religion and stuff. So the girl in the book loves yeast and sourdough bread. She has starters all over in her kitchen. She's baking bread all the time, wants to be a baker, had her own blog for cooking and baking, and was going to write a book. But somehow her sister stole all her ideas and like just crashed and burned her and was like, yeah, I took over all your ideas and I got a book signing. And she was like, wait, what? You don't even know how to cook. Like you're a vegan and don't even eat anything that I cook. So her family, like they have to get together every Sunday and eat dinners. And she's like, oh, I'm so tired of my family in my face and picking everything out for me. So they pick out this guy for her to marry. And her dad's like, he's coming from a good family. We're going to bring him over. Like, you're going to marry him. And she's like, wait, what? No, like, I don't want to get married. Well, come to find out, she actually ends up liking the guy and enters this contest that you have to be either married or engaged. It's a cooking show contest. So she asked that guy to do it. Well, yeah, it goes like, you know, rom-com, they end up getting together, but it's very cute and sweet. But it talks a lot about like a Muslim community and heritage and family. And it was a really good, quick, easy curl up. Like, oh, this was really cute. How is it going to work out? And what's it do? And it was funny. It was a good, funny read.
That's a nice, it's nice to see all different genres branching out with authors from so many different backgrounds, you know, so that makes it different. And like you said, it adds a little something to it other than the typical rom-com story. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
And let's have Joyce share her books that she wants to curl up with next.
Okay, well, my choices are older books. When I think about curling up with a book, I think of a really good narrative. I think of something that's old and familiar and the kind where I pick it up and I read a couple pages and the next thing I know, it's 4 hours later and I haven't done anything and the house is a mess and the kids haven't eaten. That's the kind of book that I envision as a cozy read. The first one I'm going to talk about is Captain's Courageous. It was written by Rudyard Kipling of the Jungle Book fame. He wrote this in 1897, and it is the only one of his books that was set in North America. And it's about Harvey Chain Jr. He's a 15-year-old who is the only child of multi-millionaire parents. He is about as spoiled and rotten as you can come up with. He is just really just an unhappy little kid. He is about to cross the ocean to go to Europe, and he gets seasick and falls over and gets picked up by a fisherman who takes him to the schooner that he works off of out of Gloucester, Massachusetts, and he's stuck. He is stuck on that fishing boat because they don't believe him when he says, "Hey, my father will pay you. Just take me back to take me to Massachusetts or New York or wherever." And they're like, "Yeah, no, this is our livelihood, and we have to stay here. And you are now a cabin boy." And it's a coming of age story. He becomes good friends with the captain's son, and it's unlike a lot of stories. There's no antagonist or anything. It's just a story of how he becomes a man. What really should be noted is, again, it was written in 1897. Political correctness did not exist when this book was written. And so the author wrote it in what I call phonetic dialogue. He was trying to impart how people spoke from different nationalities. And nowadays it would come off as racist, but it really just, he was just trying to impart how this person would speak. So if you get a chance to listen to the audiobook by a really skilled narrator, the book comes to life. It's just a wonderful story. I just always get drawn into it. It's been one of my favorite books for years. The other book that I'm going to talk about is The Loon Feather by Iola Fuller. This book was written in 1940, and my father is the one who actually handed me this book for the first time. My dad loves fiction that's centered in early America. And the neat thing about this book is most of it takes place on Mackinac Island.
Oh.
The main character is Oneida. She is the daughter of Tecumseh. Again, completely fictional. But she and her mother end up on Mackinac Island after her father dies. And they're facing poverty, and her mother ends up marrying Pierre, a Frenchman who works for the fur company on the island. This is at the beginning, or during the main part of the fur trade. And her mother eventually passes away after about a year after giving birth to her little brother. And it's about her, Oneida, as a full Indian, again, not politically correct. The word Native American didn't exist, although that phrase didn't exist. She is trying to bridge the gap between her upbringing and the French world that she lives in, and her relationship with her stepfather and her brother and her step grandmother, and trying to keep the relations between the Indians on the island and the French on the island from getting out of control, because there's a lot of miscommunication and misunderstandings. And like the Captain's Courageous, it's just a wonderful narrative. It just kind of draws you in, and it's not a fast-paced book or anything. It's just a really good story.
Thank you, Joyce. I had never heard of The Loon Feather before, and I had no idea it was set on Mackinac Island. So that's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Little piece of Michigan history that you can pick up and curl up with.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Let's have Jen share her books that she would curl up with.
Okay, my first book that I'm going to talk about is Ink. And it is by, I'm going to totally forget the author's name. I can't remember. Let's see. When you put it up, I'll read it. Elizabeth Hunter. This is the first book in a series. It's the Love on 7th and Main series. They're not, you don't need to read them all. Basically, each book, and this honestly is the only one I've read. I kind of know what the other ones are about, but they take place in the same setting. They take place in the same town, 7th and Main, in this town. But so this first book, super cute. The main character's name is Emmy, and her grandmother has passed away, and she has inherited her grandmother's bookstore. And her initial plans is to sell the bookstore. She lives in, I think, San Francisco. Her grandmother's bookstore is in a little town called Matlin, California, that's in the mountains. It's very rural. She doesn't want to move home. Bookstores are failing. Like, she loves the bookstore. She grew up in the bookstore, but she can't keep this. But as she's preparing to sell it, she realizes she just can't sell it. So, okay, I'm going to keep a bookstore open. How do I make a bookstore successful in this day and age? So across the street from the bookstore is a tattoo shop. And one day, one of the tattoo artists gets kicked out. He's dating the owner of the shop, and they break up, and she's like, "You don't work here anymore." And so Emmy has this idea, Ink. She's going to rename the bookstore Ink, and she's going to stock books, and he's going to have his own little corner of tattoo shop, and they're going to sell ink on your skin and in your books. And he needs a place to tattoo, so he's like, all right, I guess I'll do this. And of course, I'm not going to fall for the cute little bookstore owner. This is a total romance. It's a very slow burn romance. There's nothing, super scandalous about it, but it's basically just these two people who, at face value, they seem like they're pretty different. She's a bit of a bookworm. He's a tattoo artist. But you discover that like he comes from a farming background and he's trying really hard to keep his family's ranch running while also tattooing. It's just cute. Both characters are amazing. It's Emmy and Ox. His name is Miles Oxford and he's adorable and I love him. It's just a very slow, cozy, it's cute. Like as a person who loves books, like I love this concept for a bookstore. She talks a lot about the bookstore parts of it and like when they have their grand opening, trying to find the perfect book for each person. And it's just cute. It was just a cozy little warm blanket of a book and I loved it. We only have it on audio. I did not listen to it. I actually read someone else's copy, but it's a really cute book. So ink, very adorable. My other book is A Bad Day for Sunshine by Dorinda Jones. And this one also has a little romancy, but it's more mystery. Sunshine Vikram is the new sheriff in a small town in New Mexico. And she's came by this new position a little shady. Basically, her parents submitted her application to run for election and she somehow won without even knowing she was running. So it's her first day on the job. She's a sheriff in this town that she didn't apply for, but it's her hometown and there's a mystery that she kind of wants to solve. So hey, why not? So she moves back to her hometown to become sheriff after being a detective in a big city. And she has a teenage daughter. And on the very first day of her new position, a teenage girl goes missing, which is very eerie because one of the reasons that Sunshine left the small town was because she was kidnapped as a teenager. And that's the mystery that she really wants to solve. So there's a lot of layers to this story. Her teenage daughter also kind of fancies herself a little bit of a detective, so she wants to get involved with the disappearance is the word I'm trying to say. The disappearance of this other teenage girl. Sunshine is like trying to balance her meddling parents who got her this job with the mystery of what happened to her as a teenager. She doesn't really know who kidnapped her. She doesn't really know how she got away. There's a little bit of romance. There's a mysterious, boy that she had a huge crush on as a teenager, but then she left town because of a multitude of things. There's a cute FBI agent. There's another federal marshal that there's some flirtation. Like Sunshine has some choices here. It's just really cute. Like the town is it's a little town, so it's one of those books where it has all of the characters, and everybody is a little bit quirky and a little bit crazy. And it's a small town, so everybody knows everybody and everybody knows everybody's business. And then there's all these secrets. This is the first book in the series. The second book just came out. It's called A Good Day for Chardonnay. I've been on the wait list for way too long, so I haven't read it yet, but very, very fun. If you like mysteries, it's not a murder mystery, it's a kidnap mystery, but there's a lot of mysteries rolled up in this. There's a little bit of romance. It's funny. So just a really fun book to read. It's not one that you have to put a whole lot of thought into. It's just pure entertainment and the characters are fantastic.
Nice. Thank you, Jen. And my books that I would curl up with, because I'm me, part of me always wants something a little off, a little mysterious, a little creepy always helps for me. So the first one I went with was, both of these are huge authors now. So Leanne Moriarty, who, if you follow writing, she's an Australia author. And her book, Big Little Lies, was turned into a 2-season mini series thing on HBO. And then her last book prior to this one, 9 Perfect Strangers, was just released as a limited series on Hulu. I will say 9 Perfect Strangers was my least favorite of Leanne Moriarty's books, but I still read it and I was still entertained. I did really like Apples Never Fall. I mean, look, it's got apples and it has the word fall in the title. Why would you not want to curl up with that in the fall? And it's Leanne Moriarty does dark underbellies of suburban life usually. And so in this case, she's looking at the Delaney family, and you find out right away at the very beginning that the mother, and Joy Delaney is the mother of 4, has gone missing. They find her bike on a street, and that's pretty much all they know, is that she's just gone. And she's always in touch with her children are all adults now. She's always in touch with them. She wants to know what's happening in their lives. She and her husband just recently retired and sold their tennis business, where they instructed tennis students at a fairly high level. And now she's gone. So the 4 adult Delaney children get together to try and figure out where their mother is. And ultimately, a couple of them start giving the side eye to their dad, Stan. Did Stan do something to their mother? And as the story goes on, you get flashbacks from the point of view of Joy and Stan and each of the 4 kids and what it was like growing up in this family. And you find out, as in everybody's story, what you see on the surface isn't what's going on underneath. And everything comes together and you find out what happened to Joy. What I particularly like that Leanne Moriarty does is she managed to deal with some pretty dark things, but her characters are also always really funny. They just have sharp sense of humor. The dialogue just moves right along. And even though they make some pretty awful choices, you find something to like in them. You look at what's happening and you're like, yeah, that happened in the past, but we can do better now. I have hope for you. Things are going to work out. So she just writes good stories about people that feel very real, who are tossed into these really strange and often upsetting circumstances. And she's just a page turner. If I'm going to curl up with something, I want to be ready to find out what happens on the next page. So pretty much any book by Leanne Moriarty, I recommend. 9 Perfect Strangers. But all of her other books, if you like them, curl up with them. And then the other author I chose was Stephen King, because I am a big Stephen King fan. I've not gotten my hands on his most recent one, Billy Summers, but it's out there. I chose The Institute because I don't think it's quite as dark as some of the other ones. And I want to say it was released in the last 3 to 4 years. This one almost feels like some of his early ones, maybe like The Stand or It, because it takes a group of preteens and teenagers fighting against evil. And that's what The Institute has. It's a real big book. You're going to keep turning the pages. And it starts off with Luke being kidnapped from his home. And it all happens within about 2 minutes. He is taken, his parents are killed, he's thrown into a black van, and then he's like out. They give him a shot of something. When he wakes up, he's back in what seems to be his bedroom. Every detail is exactly the same, except the window is gone. Instead, there's just a wall there. And so he wakes up and he knows something happened. When he opens the door, it's to a hallway filled with other doors and other kids come out. And he starts to learn that he's now in the Institute. And these are all kids who have unusual powers or abilities, usually telekinesis or telepathy. And so Luke, while he's happy to kind of be in a circle of kids that he knows as he learns more about the Institute, he realizes that this is a bad place to be. When you first start, everything seems like, oh, you know, we're going to help you and we're going to help you develop your skills. No, he learns pretty early on, this is a terrible place to be. And even worse is to get to move to what the kids call back half. Front half is where they're at now, and it's pretty bad as it is. If you get moved to back half, they never see those kids again. So Luke and this gang of kids, and they all have great personalities. Some are very funny, some are timid, some are, you know, really smart. They're a great group of kids. They realize they have to get out. Whatever's going to happen to them in back half, they don't want to have that happen. And so it's about this group of kids trying to escape from the Institute. And it is an adventure story. There's lots of great characters. King is really good at creating characters that you care about and that you are rooting for, because you are rooting for these kids the whole time. And he's really good at making you wonder, are they going to get out? Are they all going to get out? How are they going to do this? And just when you think, oh, they got it, they've got it figured out, then something else comes crashing in that breaks their plans apart. So I think, you know, maybe if you've never tried King, this is actually a pretty decent place to start. There is language, and of course it's King, so there's some violence, but I feel like it's not as overtly paranormal as, I mean, I just talked about telepathy and telekinesis, so yeah, there's some of that, but it's not like, it's not monsters, and it's not as, I don't know, there's a lot of hope in this one. Stephen King, if you've read him, is actually usually pretty hopeful about humanity, and there's definitely lots of hope in this one. While there's a lot of darkness, there's a lot of hope. There's good people to cheer for, and you'll love these kids. So The Institute, you need something to curl up with, kind of creepy, pick that one up. So thank you to all of you for sharing your books that you'd curl up with this fall. Thank you to those who listened, and we will be back in October with new titles to share. Thank you. Have good weeks. Bye.
Bye.